Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Two Girls Without Cancer. I'm here with Ashley for the first time in weeks. We are back together. How are you feeling?
Yeah. The word I want to say, I can't say, but it's a journey.
Well, you know what? You're here. You're able to be on the podcast today, and we have a really great guest today and something that really applies to both of us. So I think it's going to be a really awesome show. Our guest today is amazing. I say this about all our guests, but I really feel like this about her. She's a board certified functional health coach and the owner of Health Coaching by Heather. As the name suggests, her name is Heather, and she's here from Arizona. Good morning.
Morning.
So yeah, tell everybody who you are and what you do. So just to give a tiny introduction, I found Heather online. Well, actually she found me, and she was talking about mold and CIRS. And instantly I was like, this is a trigger for me. Let's have this girl on our show. So here you are going to talk about mold and CIRS, and I can't wait.
So you want me to answer what I do?
Yeah. Who are you? What do you do? What's your background?
I am very, very passionate, always have been about health and wellness, but had my own journey of getting sick at the age of 30, and I'm now 60, and pretty much undiagnosed Lyme for 22 years and a lifetime of mold exposure that I didn't know about. So by the time I was 35, I had to stop working. I had been a dietitian and a diabetic educator. And it wasn't until I was 51, 52 that they diagnosed the Lyme, and we treated holistically, and I did improve. And I started coming off all these drugs that I was on, but I was still not well, not right. And we moved to Arizona because I had trouble walking and standing, and we wanted a one-story house in a drier climate. And it was here I entered health coaching school when I was really, really sick. My vertebrae were going out of alignment. And I was literally, it's sort of crazy stuff, but I was ate 3 times a week for 8 years. I was at the chiropractor because my vertebrae wouldn't stay in alignment. I went to health coaching school in a zero gravity chair. I could not sit upright at my desk like I am now. I just had all these crazy symptoms. And during COVID, the Lyme resurfaced, and I developed Graves' disease and mono all in the same month. And I was really sick. I did not sleep for 72 hours at a time because my thyroid was overactive. And I really blamed everything on the Lyme. And it was a colleague in health coaching school who said, Heather, I think you might have mold or CIRS. And I didn't learn anything about mold or CIRS in health coaching school, but I went and had some testing done and confirmed I had CIRS. Worked with a doctor for 6 months, nothing shifted. I was down to 10 foods that I could eat. I couldn't stand or walk well at all because my vertebrae would go out of alignment, but stuff started to make sense. Like I understood I was toxic and I was inflamed. And I started and found some other people who were health coaches who were using an approach called a regenerative approach. And I started on this approach, and 3 days in, my food list expanded from 10 foods to 11. And I thought everything my doctor did for my gut didn't move the needle in 6 months. And I knew we were onto something, but I was too brain fogged and sick to really understand it at the time. And around 3 months, my brain fog lifted. My food list had greatly grown. And in 6 months, I was walking without adaptive devices. At 23 months, I was told I had eradicated Lyme and mold and CIRS. But I'm now 4.5 years out. But in the next 2.5 years, there was still a lot of junk in my body, a lot of junk in the trunk that my body had to get rid of, and a lot of drugs that I had been on that I had to sort of detox out of my system. So even though I wasn't sick, there was still a lot of healing going on. So it was quite the journey, but my heart and my desire is sort of twofold: to educate people about the potential of water damage and toxins being an underlying root cause to illness, definitely in cancer, mold exposure and water damage. If people don't see it, it's suppressing the immune system and can allow other things to come to the forefront, like cancer, or like with me, Lyme disease, or people with PANS or mast cell. Most of the time I meet everybody who has found me with cancer, with with Lyme, with mast cell, with PANS, they've all been living in a home that had water damage and they did not know about it, which is very, very, very common. But the other thing is I want to give people hope that they can get better and restore their health. I had no knowledge that I could heal. I had just accepted that I was sick until I found out I had CIRS and I understood it was an illness of toxicity. And even when what with my doctors didn't work, when I stumbled upon this regenerative approach and it started to work, I knew in my head, no matter how difficult the process was, I knew I could get better. So I want to give people hope. I mean, I was sick, pretty much 30 years, and I'm back to hiking and kayaking, and I mean,
I love that.
I could, yeah, it's crazy how disabled I was.
I feel like I am on a smaller scale than what you're saying. I wasn't immobile by any means, but I am in my chiropractor at least once a week, adjusting things, find out my spine's decompressed, why, I do all the things. So I'm having to have it, whatever, pulled out, stretched out. I have an upside down chair, all these things. Nothing is helping my back feel better. I'm sore all the time. I'm tired all the time. I have that brain fog all the time.
Sounds
and
like
yeah, right.
toxicity.
And I'm off the meds. Like, people are not understanding, you haven't done chemo in almost a year. You haven't been on the hard chemo in a year and a half. Like, you are this out of treatment X amount of months. And it's just like, why am I not getting better? And I've been dealing with this a lot. Yeah, right. Why am I not getting better?
Shifting the way you're thinking about it. Maybe the cancer was a symptom of something deeper, right? A symptom of toxicity and acidity in the body. And so maybe you've put the cancer at bay, but you still haven't addressed the toxicity and acidity enough in the body for that inflammation, right? For that inflammation to come down in the body. Because a lot of times when people are struggling chiropractically, it's a sign of, systemic inflammation. So ruling out water damage, addressing toxicity in the body, looking at, what's coming into your body toxin wise. And we have to do that gradually, not totally change everything we're doing overnight, but do it
yeah.
And I get it too. I've been dealing with SIBO for over a year and a half now. And it's a roller coaster journey. And there's times where I can only eat a few foods, and now it's like it's up and down, right? So
well, that's what I had. I had SIBO, right? So that's what I had. I had SIBO, methane SIBO, and nothing my doctors did worked because they were not addressing the underlying toxicity.
They pretty much gave up on me. Hydrogen, methane, SIBO. They're just like, here's a pill, and if that doesn't work,
here's antibiotics.
And then if that doesn't work, then we don't know what else to do.
Yeah, even holistic doctors. I mean, I went to holistic doctors, but I was a health coach, and in my head, I'm going, they're trying to treat the SIBO without addressing the cause, and the cause was toxicity. And if you don't bring the toxic load down in the body, the gut continues to get damaged. And if you're living in water damage, nothing you do is going to make you better.
Do you think
like if someone's in?
I don't know.
Sorry,
yes, I mean, there's simple ways to assess water damage, in the home. Sometimes it's easy to assess, sometimes it's harder because if you can't see it or smell it.
Is there a kit or something that people can do in their homes?
So keep in mind, and I'm just going to say this as a disclaimer. So water damage can cause mold. It's not mold that makes us sick. It's the byproducts that mold produces. So mold produces mycotoxins. So you can see mold and you can smell mold. You cannot see mycotoxins. They're invisible to the naked eye, and they're about the size of the size of the COVID virus. So there are tests that test for mold spores, a dust cloth test called an ERMI. That's a nice starting place, but you could have a negative ERMI. And there could be like the water damage was cleaned up and they got rid of the boards that were moldy, but the mycotoxins are still in the air and they're neurotoxic to the brain and they're cancer causing and all of those things. So there's different tests.
Those plants, like could some plants, the plants like a snake plant or those plants, can they clean the air of those?
There are plants that are very helpful to clean the air, but if you have water damage in your home, no amount of air filtration or plants is going to keep up with the production of toxins that you're not seeing in the home, if that makes sense. And
Yeah, it does.
I mean, all homes have some level of water damage often, or some level of mold that's tracked in from outdoors. It's about low levels of toxic mold in a home versus moderate to high, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
My house had building material mold in the desert. It was a new build. We did not find the source, but the levels were low compared to what I look at when I see clients. My levels were the lowest I've ever seen. And so we didn't move, but we did things to decrease the toxic levels of mold in the home. We removed carpet and we did some basics. I was healing. It's when people aren't getting better with what they're doing too. Any protocol anybody's on, whether it's for cancer or something else, or Lyme or mast cell or PANS, checking the environment can really be key. If someone's doing a protocol and they're not seeing shifts that they expect in 30 to 90 days, checking the environment is really critical because it is missed. Traditional doctors are not trained in mold toxicity. It's an environmental illness.
Or SIBO
Holistic doctors, yeah, and holistic doctors, I don't know, there's some awesome doctors out there, but, and I saw wonderful caring doctors, but they were so focused on detoxing or Lyme, but they weren't looking at the whole picture of, my pathogen load, opening pathways. They weren't looking at nourishing my body at a cellular level, teaching me how to eat to detox. Like those were huge pieces that were missed on my journey. And we really can't just do one thing. You can't just detox and think you're going to get better. We have to look at all of it, the lifestyle, your nervous system, you know, and so it's a lot more work than people realize. Like I think we all get started, and I got started. I don't know. I didn't know what the heck I was getting into. And it was a lot of work, and there's a lot of discomfort depending on how toxic you are in the healing journey. And sometimes when people have symptoms, they sort of freak out and think getting worse, when in reality you're getting better and those toxins and pathogens are leaving, but you need somebody to guide you and help you understand this is part of the process. What can we do to support your body? What can we do to make you more comfortable? Do we need to slow things down, or do your pathways need more support? Do you need a binder to mop up those toxins? But I don't know, when people are really sick, they often need somebody to guide them.
Yeah. Because it gets overwhelming for people, right?
Yeah. And I love coming alongside people and guiding them. And so I'm there to guide them and give them ideas and thoughts on how to move forward. Ultimately, right, each of us individually decide what we need to do on our journey to get better, but there's not one magic pill. We all wish there was.
Right.
We all wish there wasn't such a process to get better. My eyes have actually changed color.
I've been saying this. I told her, I said post chemo, I was like, I don't look like me. I look in the mirror and like hair aside, whatever, obviously being bald makes you look different, but I'm like, my eyes are different. I'm like, they just look darker than they used to. And as I detoxify a little bit, I do find like they're becoming more what they used to be, but I still don't think they're there. And I thought it was crazy. I thought I made that up.
No. I have a lot of colleagues who do iridology, where they look at the eye.
Yes.
The eye, actually, my eye was so dark brown. And now there's like blue in it. It's so bizarre.
Oh, wow.
And the brown is so light. And I'm like, do I have blue eyes? And I don't even know, because I don't, but they've just gotten so light. So you can see a lot in the eye when somebody is toxic.
Isn't it amazing how our body works all as one, and it's literally telling us things that, and I noticed in my journey, body odor. I don't usually smell, and then when I got sick with 6 months prior, I couldn't find a deodorant. I went through 7 or 8 different deodorants. They weren't working. My breath stain, my feet, everything, and it was and I don't have that. And then when I throughout, say a month ago, I started getting sick again, or when the SIBO flares up and I have a relapse, my body just starts to smell differently. And it's crazy because that's your body literally telling you it's a sign that something's going on in your body.
Yeah, well,
And
and your
then,
body is trying to detox through your skin
yes,
too. So
yeah.
it's actually, I know we don't like smell, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
good
It's a
thing
sign.
when,
Yeah.
yeah, that those toxins are coming out
Mm-hmm.
through the skin. A lot of people with CIRS, the chronic inflammatory response syndrome, they stop sweating. And I
I
moved to
stopped
the
sweating
desert.
as well.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
too. And I was here and it was 120 degrees and I wasn't sweating. And I thought, oh, it's dry heat. That's why. But
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't. And I didn't know that. And when I started healing about a year out into detoxing, when
Mm-hmm.
it was 120, I would just be drenched. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
sweat. I didn't sweat
Mhm.
for like 5 years and I just
That
thought
was
it was the
mine.
desert.
That was like for a few years prior. And then just in the last like 3 or 4 months, I started sweating again.
Oh, that's nice.
That's a
Yeah.
very good sign. But
Yeah.
anybody who's watching who has cancer, like I encourage those people, no matter the type of cancer, rule out water damage in your home. And a good starting place would be an ERMI dust cloth test or an EMA. The ERMI tests for 36 different toxic molds.
Hmm.
The EMA tests for molds, 10 molds and 50 mycotoxins. But it's a do-it-yourself test. I can send you guys the link if you want to
Please
put it
do. Yeah.
in the show notes. I have no affiliation, but the company's called Envirobiomics. It's just a starting place. You know, if you have visible signs of water damage,
Mm-hmm.
then you might want to get an inspector in.
Well, right now my mom's struggling with mold and we're detoxing her. And when I was sick, when the whole journey started in 2023, I also had mold when I did the live blood analysis. We seen it in there. So I detoxed then. I don't have it currently. And then you're detoxing right now, or she has it.
Well, yeah, my hair analysis came back quite high in mold.
Yeah.
And then I did that BCS test that came back
Mhm.
high in mold and CIRS. And I was like, where could that possibly be coming from? I didn't think, but I mean, I look in my shower curtain and it was all black on the bottom.
What?
And well, I threw it out. I didn't know. And then I do recall that there were times like my shower did leak into my basement, and then
That
we
makes
just
sense.
thought we fixed it, and that was
Mhm.
it.
I
So
just
I'm
found
wondering
mold.
if that was not it.
So actually, I just found mold on. We had just got this. It's weird because we just got this window replaced a few years ago, and literally on the bottom there was a ton of mold. So I had to wear gloves, and I like cleaned it off and did all that. But it's crazy because you don't think of those things being there, right? And then my
No,
mom opened
and
the curtain and she was like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, don't touch that." I was like, "Cause even if she
don't
was to
touch
touch
it.
it, it's gonna seep into your skin. Even when you have moldy, even Barbara O'Neill talked food, you do not touch it with your hands.
No, you
You
don't.
do
Well, you
not.
actually, I mean, it depends on the, of course, if it's a toxic mold, you got to be really, really careful. We can get mold, in a shower if it's not ventilated well,
Mhm.
certain kinds of molds. But if you're getting molds on a regular basis, it's a sign of a deeper issue in a home. It could be a ventilation issue, it could be a
Makes sense.
leak, but it causes, illness,
Oh
and
yeah,
it may look differently. It may show up as cancer in one person and show up as
something
um,
else in another.
neuropathy and be given other labels when really the reality is they have CIRS or mold toxicity. And once you
Wow.
address the toxicity, the labels sort of disappear
Hmm.
and the symptoms go away over time. But it's like a 2 to 4 year process for
Hmm.
people to truly, if you're in your 20s, it might be quicker.
Right.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
bounce
makes
back a
sense.
little faster.
Yeah.
The older
Uh,
you are, the more.
Hmm.
yeah. So talk about CIRS for a second. You said it a few times. Obviously, we know what it is now. Explain to the people listening what CIRS stands for so that they can do some research on it.
So CIRS stands for chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And when people have CIRS, basically it's the toxic bucket in the body overflowing, and those toxins, it often happens from water damage and mold exposure and mycotoxins. It often happens in Lyme disease. So it can come from biotoxins. So any pathogen in the body creates its own toxins. So
Hmm.
somebody can have a high load of parasites, viruses, and bacteria and never have been exposed to mold and maybe used a lot of chemical cleaning products and hair care products and been
Yeah.
exposed to a lot in their lifetime, and have chronic inflammatory response syndrome. But it's very common for it to happen in Lyme and mold. But I've had people and clients that mold and Lyme weren't even a part of their diagnosis, but they were just toxic. But when you have CIRS, just like COVID, a cytokine storm is going on in the body, causing systemic inflammation. And it can affect every single system of the body. But what's confusing is people present so differently. So some people could have ligament laxity and need to go to the chiropractor a lot. And some people can have chronic pain and be labeled with fibromyalgia. And somebody else might have cancer, and somebody else might have colitis. And especially when people start accumulating labels and diagnoses, that's when I'm thinking there's more mold, when the list just keeps growing. Because I was like that, I had a list of 20 illnesses, and they just kept giving me more drugs, which was just managing symptoms not very well. It was making me more toxic. And we really don't get better unless we address, the root cause of what's going on.
Wow. It's so like this last 2 years, since diagnosis for both of us, it's just like all I wanted to know is like why this happened. We've talked about this lots on the show. Yours had a hormonal piece, but even that, your hormones don't always go out of whack and give you cancer. But like I had no hormones and no family history. And so I've always been like, how? Why? What is the cause? I know there's a root cause to it.
It's like we were so acidic,
right?
Yeah. And doctors aren't gonna, unfortunately, because they're not taught that, but they're not gonna be like, oh, you got a pH balance, you need to do this and this. They're not gonna tell you that, right? And then just like you said with the fibromyalgia, it's like it could be underlying issues, but they're just gonna do this to you, or like when they put you on all those pills. And that was the biggest thing for me on this journey with my stomach. To find out, when I finally found out it was SIBO, it's like, I'm not going to go on these pills until you give me a root cause. I can't do it because I know in my body that that won't work for me,
Right. Yeah, no, I went through the why too. And I will say now, 30 years later, I feel like God is using what I went through to help others for good. So even though it was like, why, Lord, why was I sick 20, 25 years to say I was homebound for 10, I had a child I raised. I couldn't go, I couldn't do things. But I look back and I think in illness, prioritizing health, you really have to hone in on what's a priority. So for me, I was coaching the whole time I was healing, but it really made me focus on, Lord, what are you calling me to do? Like, so all the things I'd love to do on my list, I really had to prioritize where to spend my time and energy. And if I think I felt 100% on the healing journey, I wouldn't have been focused on what I was doing. And I feel very, very focused now in my life, even as I'm 99% better. We're still peeling away a few last little layers of like cellular cleanup, and the cells just letting go of waste products. But there have been lots of blessings on the journey, like the people I've met and the ability to be able to come alongside people in a way I would never be able to even spot, even with you guys and what you're going through, that it was toxicity if I hadn't been through this journey myself.
Yeah. We say that as well, that if there's one thing to, having cancer or having any sort of chronic illness or whatever, it sucks that we went through it. But if I can help one person through this, at least my situation wasn't completely for nothing,
Right.
I always Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, you're encouraging and helping other people find a path. And also for them to know they're not alone.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, how scary is it to go through cancer? Has a whole different connotation than Lyme or mold, just different. And to feel so alone and to meet other young women who have gone through it and are in remission has got to give people hope. And that hope is huge.
It was very lonely, for sure. We talk about it. It was kind of
It's still lonely.
It is, for sure. But it was kind of the reason initially why we wanted to do a show, because we wanted people to know that there was more to it than just being a bald, sickly cancer patient. That it isn't just whatever. Like, it isn't just the food you eat. Yes, it could be. It isn't just the
It's
trauma you
everything.
have. It's a lot of things. And for healing, it isn't just chemo and radiation. Like that, there's a heck of a lot
So
more
much
to
more.
it than, you know,
Yes,
what we're
right.
ever taught in North American society. You know, maybe if you're blessed to live in South America or Europe or wherever, where they're a little more open-minded,
Right.
maybe you have more knowledge of that. But here in North America, no, it's like you have cancer and you're gonna have chemo, radiation, surgery, and that's gonna be it.
And yeah, or you're
I
gonna
think what's
die.
nice for people to know is, and what you're teaching them is they have other options, they have choices, and you got to choose whether to do chemo, and there's nothing wrong with choosing to do chemo, right? For a cancer that's, you know, or choosing to have surgery, but we have so many choices and how we can support our body in the process, and it's individual, you know, what choices we're going to make. But there is so much that we can do to support our body, even if we're doing chemo or even if we're doing surgery, to help it to function the way God intended it to function. But we have to remove all those interferences, which are usually toxins and pathogens. And you mentioned trauma, and right, there's these layers to peel away. And that's the part that takes time, you know. And we
We
don't want
also
to
have to
start.
be open-minded to it, you know.
Yes.
You can't just be like what you're told and, you know, follow that straight and narrow. You have to be able to look at the bigger picture.
Right.
Well, it is frustrating too when people are just like, why are you doing it that way?
Yeah.
Why? What do you mean there's a root cause to cancer? What do you mean it's mold? You know, like, no, it's not. It's cancer. My doctor said so. So I find that very frustrating,
It's hard.
especially in the beginning when you and I were both like, no, we're going to do this holistically. Very, very frustrating. What do you mean you're going to Mexico? What do you mean you're going to take cayenne and garlic?
You know,
like,
supplements I used to take, and they've throughout this 2 years, they've changed. My body needs different things, you know, and it's like, it's a journey for sure. But I mean, people are crunchy when it comes to what we've done.
People are getting,
more
getting
open-minded. I
Other
think
people aren't going to get it. They're just not. I mean, I can tell you my journey. I actually seemed somewhat sicker while I was healing. I was
of
more
course.
functional within my abilities to walk and stand and do that stuff. But the symptoms in healing for me, because I was sick so long, were a little over the top. So I didn't leave the house for like a large part of the journey, even though I was coaching people.
yeah.
And you know, people would, even friends, they just didn't understand. They're
A lot
just
of
like,
people
I don't
don't.
understand. I've never seen anybody go through this, because most people go to the doctor and take a drug for their symptom and they're managing the symptom, which is an option. My son has CIRS. He is sickly. He works. He's functional, but he has chosen. You know, he doesn't feel like he wants his mom to tell him what to do as a young adult in his 30s. He has chosen to treat his symptoms with drugs, and that's his choice. And I wish I could help him, you know, to restore his health, but that's not that's not what he wants to
He's
do.
not there yet. Maybe he will.
And
You know?
maybe, but I meet a lot of people who, like, they want to eat their junk food. They want to run to the doctor and take a pill for every symptom, and they don't want to look at the root. I think, like, my biggest joy has been watching my husband. And he said to me not too long ago, "Thank you for helping me with his health." And it was like, and he is not like a health motivated guy,
Yes.
but he had become very overweight. And we didn't understand why. And I was a dietitian, and everything I did didn't work. And I've learned now, for us, I mean, he was in mold, right? His body was holding on to those toxins to protect him, and it caused metabolic syndrome, elevated blood sugar, like liver issues, skin rashes. Now, 4.5 years later, he's gone from 310 to like 240.
Wow.
But it's taken 4.5 years for him to lose that weight. Like, it was not like, oh, he was eating healthier than any guy I know. And the weight wasn't coming off because there were so many layers we had to peel away.
Sign of something happening.
Like all of these things that you're saying are like triggering something inside of me in like a positive way. But I hear you talking about your husband. Again, my husband, not super health conscious or like motivated by any means. In the beginning, he told me that organic was a scam, and I almost had a heart attack. But he, you know, in the past year realizes that he's put on quite a bit of weight for his body type, for sure. He's not feeling like, even like his libido is low, his energy is low. He just doesn't feel like himself. And so he went to like a medi clinic, well, like a medi spa type clinic, and they've put him on testosterone. And to me, I was mad. I was like, you can't out supplement like a bad diet and like other things that are going on inside of you. Like, if you're not willing to change what you're doing, then why are you going on it? And so now we're almost a year into him taking it, and there's been zero changes other than I think his hair is going a little bit.
And there are times where hormones are helpful, right? If
For
people's
sure.
hormones are low and I mean, my hormones have still not come into balance. And I never wanted to take anything, and I'm taking natural stuff, non-prescription that I rub. And I've like accepted that if I need these hormones, the dose I've needed has gone down as I've healed. But if I need those hormones to feel my best, I'm okay with it. But I mean, I'm addressing all the underlying roots. So I think at times these things are a bridge, like in the healing journey, if a guy needs testosterone. But if we can get to the root of, if your testosterone is low, why is it low?
That's just it.
Yeah. I was going to say about the hormones, though, I have the same similar thing that I'm dealing with right now. And I've been taking B6, and that's actually been helping with my hormones, because before I was on that, I would like anything could trigger me, especially when it became like a week before my period, and I would have like meltdowns and stuff. But I've been starting with B6, and all my Bs were actually really low too. So I'm taking a B6 plus a B complex, I think it is, and it's actually been helping, because we can't really fix mine just with the form. Well,
it's hard when there's a cancer piece, and maybe you can speak to this because you have a lot more experience than we do. I'm very hesitant to do anything hormone related just after having, and even though my type of cancer was hormone negative, they did say if it comes back, it will likely be a hormone presentation. So I'm very cautious with what I do. Like, for example, I thought I started to go through menopause because of chemo. So I saw the menopause doctors. She was suggesting some different hormones to go on. And I was like, I don't think so. No, I'm okay. I'll probably just stay like this forever.
I don't do hormones. Like, I can do kinesiology, muscle testing if somebody needs them, and I can dose and recommend, but I always refer them back to the doctor so that the doctor's monitoring, testing to see what the hormones are. I can do testing as a health coach, but I really would rather a doctor whose specialty, right, is that area, because that's my specialty. Like, I'm not the hormone expert. But I think it's such a personal choice too, how we choose to move forward. So it's, in terms of cancers, it is going to depend on the cancer, but across the board, mold will, and you can go to pubmed.org. Mold causes cancer, and it suppresses the immune system. And an acidic diet, and acidic foods are processed foods, meat, dairy, eggs are acidic. So it doesn't mean you can't eat those things, but eating higher alkaline foods, increasing those fruits and vegetables, which we already know are good for detox and good for your liver, increasing that in the diet is really key, and avoiding those processed foods, those inflammatory fats, like all the things that are good for basic health. But today, like, life is so busy and we go to convenience, and I've been cooking. My husband had a job shift and we don't eat out a lot, but I have literally cooked every meal for the last 6 months at home, except for like 2.
Nice.
So I feel like I'm patting myself on the back, because
you should.
But eating out, like, we just get, when we buy convenience foods, even things that look healthy, like a salad in a bag, it's in a plastic bag, and then the salad dressing's got inflammatory oils. And as a health coach, like, I'm always reading labels, and sometimes I come home with something and I think, I should have read the label. I thought those sunflower seeds were just sunflower seeds, and they were roasted in an inflammatory oil, and they added sugar to it. And I thought it was safe with a seed, but I'm learning I have to look at the label of everything I buy. And it's not hard to do, but it's a transition for people to make those gradual shifts. My house, if I'm hungry, anything you want other than fruit, you have to cook,
Mhm.
from scratch. There's not usually a meal just sitting in the fridge unless I made extra overnight,
Mhm.
and then the next day there's leftovers.
I'll now with my, because I used to meal prep all the time. Like what I do now, I'll make, if I make a big batch of chicken, because I get exhausted a lot, I will freeze it and then I will take it out because it's already cooked when I thaw, and then I'll eat it. That's how I've been doing it now.
Planning and prepping is awesome, and using things like crock pots and pressure
Yeah.
cookers and things that you can throw
Mhm.
everything in and make it more convenient, or just
Yeah.
roasting a pan of right vegetables and meat,
Mhm.
and however you're choosing to eat, can be really, really helpful to save time and energy.
Well, that's just it. Like eating out. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of a dopamine hit when you get your McDonald's or whatever. Although you never feel good after. But it's just so convenient. And
Yeah,
like
that's the
going
big
to the
part.
grocery store, preparing a meal, all the prep, all the washing, all the store. It's just so much work. And so I find, especially these last 2 years, like I do not have the energy for that. And but it's like it's all I want. All I want to do is have whole meals in my house all the time. My kids complain all the time. They say, all you have is food that you need to cook. And I'm like, yeah, because we're trying here. We're trying to be better.
To eat healthier. I think we have to shift how we think about it, because I totally agree with what you're saying.
Mhm.
You're tired, but I know by the time I may go out to pick up something, it takes as much time to drive there as it would for me to prep a quick meal.
That's true.
Engage your kids in helping chop, cut, do things, or buy your prepackaged vegetables, buy frozen vegetables, throw them on a roasting pan with a
True.
little bit of olive oil and have some different seasonings, Italian, Greek, Indian, and roast them. I think just making meals simple when you're tired, because my healing journey, what I ate was very simple. And now that I'm feeling better, I am cooking much more interesting meals, and I'm able to eat whatever I want now. But when I was healing, it was really about keeping things very, very simple, and roasting and throwing things in pressure cookers and crock pots and one pan kind of meals.
Do you think, like being full of mycotoxins or having CIRS, do you think that creates food aversion? Like, I'm just trying to think of my family in this house, my husband especially, like, just hates everything. Like, everything. They want a few simple things, which is fine. But, like, to broaden their horizons of, let's say, vegetables and meats and whatever is like very tough because everyone hates everything in this house.
Food aversions can happen with toxicity, and food aversions can happen for other reasons as well. And I can tell you, even just on my journey of healing, what I've needed and craved has been very different. Like I needed a lot of fruit when I was detoxing. Fruit's the highest form of detox. It was the opposite of everything I was taught as a dietitian.
Right.
And I literally ate 3 months all fruit. And I went from not walking to walking. And I was craving,
Wow.
but you don't want to go in and just eat fruit. Like, I don't recommend that.
No, no.
But my body was ready to do that.
Right.
And I listened and leaned in. And now, I mean, I'm not sick and I don't need to eat all fruit. And so my body's in repair mode and cellular repair. I didn't eat meat on my healing journey. I was
Wow.
fruits and vegetables and superfoods, and superfood shakes and amino acids was what I was 98% alkaline on my healing journey. And now
Wow.
what I need has totally shifted. And I'm not sick and I eat high alkaline, but I've added back meat, which was really weird after eating like vegan and fruits and vegetables for like 3 years. But I started craving it, and it was my body telling me. And that's what I do with clients. You got to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is telling you. And as long as you're not craving junk, which is the parasites and the bugs in the gut, that are telling you what to eat, you got to listen to your body. So I'm needing a much higher amount of protein for whatever repair work is going on
Right.
from cleanly sourced, grass-fed meat, grass-finished meat, eggs and that kind of stuff, and fish. But it's been a total shift in how I'm eating. So, people are just different, and sometimes they're craving things based on the gut. Sometimes food aversions can be related to like kids who have ADD, or ADHD. Um, it's like food aversions and food textures, and a lot of times that's the gut and toxicity talking. I'm not sure with your husband off the top of my head, but definitely toxicity can cause us to choose to eat differently.
Yeah, he hates
Um,
textures. He's like very bothered by foods. I won't try it because
I
of
know
the
a lot of
texture.
people like that too.
That's so
They
bizarre.
won't let their
So
food
weird to me.
touch.
Oh,
you
that's
gotta
weird.
work until you address the toxicity. You sort of gotta live within what he likes.
Right.
And maybe he can help you prepare things he likes, because it's very hard if you've got a whole family who likes different stuff.
Literally 3 or 4 different meals. And
Right.
before I got sick, and when I got sick, I'm like, you guys are on your own. If you all want to eat
Right.
ramen noodles, then do it, because I'm going to lay on this
Absolutely,
couch for
yeah.
2 years.
That was like, and there's still there's days I can't get out of bed. I'm just so tired from this journey, and I don't want, like, I was so sad because I had to cook craft dinner one night. I was like, well,
Like
this
mac
is
and
it.
cheese.
I have to do it. I need to eat something.
Well,
But yeah.
this sounds crazy, but I mean, the whole healing journey, I was tired, wiped out, and I
Mhm.
was working. And I had to be really gracious with myself. And my husband never put pressure on me to cook. It's a little different, I think, when we have kids. Like, we feel like, I know when I had my son, I always felt like I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was labeled with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, all these
Mhm.
things. And so my goal was to cook a good meal. But I taught him, I think by the time he was sick, he was always involved in the cooking. And even at the supermarket, like, I would challenge him. The dietitian in me would challenge him, pick out a fruit, pick out something you've never had before in the produce section. Like, I always got him involved in the
Mhm.
process of food shopping. And he loved, I mean, he's 34 now. He's not 6. He loves to cook. I don't know if I get any credit for that, but
Totally
he,
do.
even
Oh,
with
you
his
do.
school
Yeah.
lunches, I said, hey, here are the food groups. You can't, you've got to pick 3 of these food groups.
Mhm.
But I stopped packing his lunches because he didn't eat it. So we made a list of his favorite foods in those food groups, and he came up with his own combinations of meals and he ate them. And so just getting your kids involved in the
I do
process.
with my son. I'm very proud of my
Yeah.
son. He does that. And he will, at least he knows he has to try something because his taste buds will change. If he doesn't like it now, maybe in a year from now he'll like it. But he loves to be involved with, we just started juicing again. And he, there was one and I was like, oh, this is spicy. And I don't know what I put, kale or something. And he drank it all. And I was surprised that he did. But because he's actually physically putting all the fruits and vegetables in and involved, and I think that really helps with the
Yeah.
kids.
I mean, yeah, I think getting them involved. My
Mm-hmm.
parents had us, like, we'd have a night where we cooked our own dinner for the whole family, and I remember it was so much fun making hamburgers and throwing in the weirdest spices, but
Mm-hmm.
we ate it and we prepared it. And so whatever way you can get your kids involved and helping and trying, even if, I mean, I couldn't, when my son was growing up, I couldn't stand. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I could not stand up because of the weakness and what was the neuropathy and the symptoms I had. So he learned at a young age to cook, to clean, to
That's
do
like my little.
laundry.
Yours are harder.
And
She's got teens or what,
Yes.
preteen and a teen, I think,
Teenagers.
and they're girls. It's harder at that age, I think.
well, I will tell you, your kids are going to learn things through your journey.
True.
Because
True.
my son came back to me and wrote me a note in his early 20s that I never expected, of all that he learned watching me as I was sick.
Aw.
So you might be surprised, even setting boundaries with your kids in their teens and not being able to do what you want to be able to do, is teaching them lessons that life
Mm-hmm.
isn't easy, right? And life throws us, things that we don't expect, but
Mm-hmm.
they're watching you,
Mm-hmm.
and learning from you. But it's not about perfection. And I think as moms, when you have kids and you're sick, it's really hard to give us the grace to
Mm-hmm.
do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be any good either at taking
True.
care of
Mm-hmm.
the kids.
Yes.
And maybe you can be there more emotionally and you get help with some of the physical things,
Mm-hmm.
in the house from the other family members, so that you have a break. This is silly, but we love Dio pizza. It's a gluten-free dairy-free pizza because I don't do dairy. It's highly inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like one thing I encourage like clients if they're open to cut out
Interesting.
dairy. But my husband, he's always loved real food. And these dairy-free pizzas, like you get them at Walmart and it's all whole food.
Oh,
It's not
wow.
organic, but that's like our treat on if there's a busy work day that I haven't made a meal, we have a few of those pizzas and can make a vegetable or a salad or something to go with it. Um, but it's just nice to have some things as a backup,
Yeah.
in your fridge or freezer. That's a quick meal that you can just like throw some already cut up vegetables on a roasting pan with some chicken and just throw it in the oven and know that you can throw in a sweet potato or potatoes if you want to starch and just throw it in the oven and know that you've got a quick, healthy meal. But it's
So,
nice to have those things.
so with food and doing all that and with our detoxing, so opening up our pathways for it, is it mostly food? How you suggest to do it?
I mean, food for me was about 80% of my healing. I used a
Okay.
superfood protocol.
Yeah.
And I ate, outside of that, I ate fruits and vegetables, high alkaline diet. It was a little bit of a process with the SIBO
Mm-hmm.
because when I got
Oh,
started,
yeah.
it was like 10 foods and it was meat and fat. That's what I could eat.
Mm-hmm.
So my gut had to start to heal. And then I was able to start adding in the fruit because I couldn't touch fruit. But so it can start with food. Pathways like your lymph, right? The lymph has no pump on it. So
I
the
have a
only way to move the
rebounder.
lymph is to move the body. But there are herbs for the lymph. So it's really weird for me. I'm at the end of the journey. I'm not detoxing. I don't have pathogens dying, but the cells are letting go of acidic waste and toxic waste.
Mm-hmm.
And I am needing so much lymph support. I have a vibration plate. I never used
Mm-hmm.
it early on in the journey. I'm on the plate 3 to 4 times a day. I can feel when I need the
Mm-hmm.
vibration plate. My legs get really heavy,
Mm-hmm.
or I get pain, and it's been bizarre. But I'm on it like 10 minutes, and it vigorously shakes my whole
Have
body.
you ever used a grounding mats or sheets or anything?
Yeah, I have grounding sheets that I sleep on. I mean, I muscle test they're beneficial, that it's helping me. I've never noticed a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I use a PEMF device I put my feet on every day. So that moves the lymph, and it helps the cell to detox.
Mm-hmm.
But right now I'm using lymph herbs. I'm a cell core practitioner, so I'm using their products are very strong. So some people just need to start out with like, homeopathic products for
Mm-hmm.
the lymph, or they need to use, an herbal product. Their
Mm-hmm.
products are herbal, they're just powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so it depends on the client what I use, and I usually will use the muscle testing to determine.
Yeah.
But I mean, the bowels have to be moving if you're
Mm-hmm.
detoxing. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not pooping, the toxins aren't coming out, they're
Yeah,
just
it's staying.
recirculating.
Mm-hmm.
The one area that gets missed a lot, even in naturopathic settings, is the kidneys and the bladder, because our waste, the lymph is going to move that toxic waste to the bowels, a third of it, and a third of it's going to go to the kidneys. So in the regenerative approach, we can do things to help support the kidneys filtering. And you can
Mm-hmm.
actually pee in a jar in the morning, that first morning urine, and see like, is your urine cloudy and have sediment? That sediment is that toxic, acidic
Yeah.
waste
I did
leaving.
this. Yeah. Yeah. Lisa
Yeah.
had me
So,
do this, and there was
well,
definitely
then she
little floaters in it because she learned from you,
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
apparently.
that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a good sign. And a lot of times when I first start working with people, right, their urine's not going to have anything in it. But if they're doing things to detox and support their body, it can. It took me about 90 days for me to start to see that. But it's a good sign, that pathway doesn't need as much support. But the more that's moving out, the more the pathways may need support as well. So if a lot is being processed, whether it's parasite die-off, viral die-off, bacterial die-off, or just detoxing, um, you may need more support
Mm-hmm.
in that process.
Interesting.
Wow.
I mean, it all makes sense. It's all connected.
There's
It's
this,
just
there's
the
so
knowledge.
much, there's so much to know, but it is
Mhm.
nice to have somebody, like
Mhm.
you who can coach through it.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to contact you, have you coach them, like where can they find you and like what do you offer basically?
Yeah, so they would go to healthcoachingbyheather.com is my website. They can book a discovery call that's just to hear their story and see if we're a good fit. It's not really prescriptive. Sometimes I will give somebody a tip or two to point them in the right direction. And then, it's deciding if they want to work one-on-one. There are packages. I do have the course, Navigating Mold and CIRS. Right now, we ran it for practitioners. We actually did have patients who had mold and CIRS take the course. We are, my colleague and I, we wrote the course together. We are readjusting it, some of the modules to be focused just for clients. So that's coming soon. And group coaching is coming very soon with the two of us. We both had CIRS and mold. I had the Lyme. And the group coaching would be for anybody, but it'll be a little bit more general, but a place for people to be part of community and
I was
feel.
going to say, I love that. A group coaching where you can feel like you're not alone. Any sort of community is helpful when you're healing, I think.
Well, and I think, like you said, even in my journey and people I meet with mold and CIRS, they feel so isolated. And you're saying the exact same thing about cancer, which almost surprises me because I always think, cancer, everybody I know who has cancer, people are so much more understanding and caring, when they hear cancer. But from patients I've met with cancer, like any journey, it's a journey. And a lot of us don't know the behind the scenes that anyone goes through in the process of healing. And if you're not feeling well, then you feel more isolated because you can't participate in the normal activities you enjoy. Um, so, yeah, community I think is so important. So I'm super excited about the group coaching, and I'm hoping that'll be up and running. In the next month or few weeks. It's just really figuring out what to charge.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, this was amazing. I feel like I've learned so much. Even this, like that there could be a reason why I got sick. I love knowing this, right? Because I've been stumped for the last 2 years. So the fact that there could be something that wasn't just, hey, you didn't deal with your trauma, you didn't forgive somebody, that's a hard pill to swallow as well. So just knowing that there might actually be something physiological that also could have contributed to it is nice to know. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for what you guys are doing, sharing your journey and being vulnerable. That's hard to do. But I think you're giving,
for
but
two
you're giving
girls who
other
didn't
people.
like to share our feelings and be weak in
strong.
front of people. It's been a tough journey, but it's a good humbling journey. If you look at anything like, adversity makes you stronger, or like the last episode I posted that came out today, like there's beauty in trauma. Like if we look at it in that sense, makes it a little bit, easier to go through, to navigate it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I did not share a lot of my journey when I was healing. It's easier to share it now, but while I was going through it, to show up on social media while you're feeling crappy, I didn't want to scare people about the healing journey. And
we definitely have some darker moments on social, and I say dark as in like we weren't posting. There were days where we both felt amazing and fantastic and positive, and the sun is going to come out tomorrow, and then there was days where like, am I going to die? Maybe I'm going to die.
I just relapsed, and it was really hard for me. This one almost put me over.
Totally.
I ended up getting a blood clot, and there were so many things that happened, and now my leg doesn't want to work, and it's like you relive the stuff that you had gone through when it first happened.
Totally.
And it's always there, but when you're feeling good and everything and you have a good day, you're able to control those emotions, but it's hard to navigate through things sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And it's got to be fearful, and anxiety producing when you hit this bump that you're not expecting in the road. For me, I've just sort of learned to trust God in the process. And if it wasn't for my relationship with him,
literally,
because it's given me so much peace on a really crazy roller coaster ride, because our journeys are a bit of a, you feel like you take 2 steps forward and you have symptoms as a part of healing, or something happens you're not expecting and you take a step back. So it's a journey of patience and trust. And we all hate that word patience, but
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it took 30, how old were you when you got sick? 37? I was 36. Like it took 36, 37 years to, build up to this point. It's not going to be a week to heal from this point either.
no, but
That's what I'm
you are
looking at.
young, right? You are young, and my heart. So, I mean, so many people who are so young are getting sick. And I think it's because our world has become so toxic, right? With chemicals and glyphosate and pesticides and the skincare and the food. And it just like so many things we're not even aware we're exposed to in the air and the water and in the food we eat. And people aren't, I mean, people talk about it on social media if you're in that realm where you're watching that, but it's not talked about by regular doctors. It's not talked about in the mainstream, and it's so preventable if people, when they're a little younger, start to be wiser about things. But not everybody's open. Not everybody's open to it.
Do you have any social media accounts where people can
Yeah,
check you?
yeah, I do. My biggest account is probably my personal Facebook page. Is health. It's Heather Sklar Sunderland is the account. I'm on Instagram and it's Heather Sunderland 842 is the handle. I have more followers on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn. I don't even know the link on LinkedIn, and I have a YouTube channel.
I will link your socials in the show notes so people can find you, as well as this health coaching by Heather.
Yeah.
I'm going to say goodbye right now, but thank you. You've been absolutely amazing. And I'm sure that, what we've talked about today is going to help somebody out there.
I hope so.
Thank
I hope
you.
so. And it's so nice to meet you guys.
You also.
And I'm excited about what you guys are doing. And if I can help you, please let me know.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh.
Another good one.
No.
I think this season has just been
This
great.
season has been so, even if it helps nobody, like it has helped me.
It's helping us.
Knowing about gut health, knowing about even like, I mean, we talked Ozempic, it's not the route I want to go, but like I talked about it. We're talking cancer survivors, people who are on the verge of suicide, like just all these things are just so inspiring and helpful, knowing that you can be at your absolute lowest and still come out and be motivating and be a coach and
just have to be open-minded to things. That's the biggest one.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Well, if you want to contact Heather, go to her website. Let's see, pointing this way, I always get it wrong. Healthcoachingbyheather.com. Again, on Facebook at Heather Sklar, Sklar Sunderland. You can see your name above Ashley's head here. And of course, check us out on all the socials, Two Girls Without Cancer. We really do need to post more. We will. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Just bear with us with our ups and downs.
Yes. Be back with us next week when we talk to somebody who owns a yoga studio. So we're very excited about that.
Yes.
Okay. Bye, everybody.